What's up, guys? All right. Happy Friday. Hope everyone's having a good week. It's time to talk about some sexual kung fu, baby. That's right. Whole body breathing. What's up? Earth Dog, dogim. What's up? All right, guys. Today, I want to talk about energy. Jaume? Jaume? I'm probably pronounced that wrong. Martinez. What's up? All right, guys. So, sexual energy mastery, and yes, of course, you guys can type in questions at any time. I will get into Q&A towards the end here, per usual. So feel free to type your questions in at any time, and I'll get to those here in a little bit. I want to talk about sexual energy mastery. As you guys know, sexual kung fu is all about sexual energy. I mean, really, it's about everything. It's a whole system of cultivation, balancing our mind and our body, our nervous system, bringing more awareness into everything that we are doing. But as far as wanting to master your sexuality, for men, learn to have potent ejaculation control, um, a, a deeper and more pleasurable experience of sex and orgasm, more energy and creativity in your life. One of the most powerful things for me has been working with my sexual energy and turning this into a force of power, of discipline, of bringing that which I truly want into my life and amplifying the things that I already have, amplifying states of bliss, of enjoyment. Just really, it's maybe more of who I am, right? And this is what it does for you. So, to understand what it takes to work with sexual energy and really develop a high level of attainment with this, it's really important to understand, first of all, what is this force? What is sexual energy? And I think it's not as simple as, uh, oh, it's the desire to reproduce. That's an aspect of it, but just as we are multidimensional beings, just as we have these different filters and perceptions of reality, these different uh, attractions in some level, you could say, like a lot of people understand have this view of like the chakra system of the yogis, and these base level experiences we have, the more animalistic things, pure survival, pure eating, having sex, fighting for survival, etc. And then we get up to the higher centers. And it's like the experience of love and connection, spirituality, perception of reality. But I believe that sexual energy is expressed in all these ways. I believe that it's more than just a base level energy. Our base, we could say, our genitals are the area that this energy is the most concentrated in, and this is what we usually associate as being our what we might call a sexual experience or orgasm or arousal. But when you really dive into this and understand it, the force of sexuality, sexual attraction, desire, arousal, orgasm, it eventually becomes a full energy system experience, an experience of heart-centered connection, spiritual connection. Basically, I believe that the sexual drive and our sexual energy is about more than just this animalistic desire to survive and reproduce. So, sexual energy has some unique qualities to it. And those of you who've been following me have probably heard me talk about this a lot, but it's really important to really understand this, that our sexual energy amplifies and bonds things together. It's the power of amplification. Takes for example, any emotional state that you're in is usually amplified when you feel sexually aroused or when the sexual energy becomes bonded to that. For example, if you're in a relationship, a sexual relationship with someone and there's anger, that can become amplified with the sexual energy. And you get stuck on that pattern as well. That's why I think relationships become so sticky. We get really stuck in these dynamics of sexual relationships because of that gluing quality of sexual energy, and it bonds you to thoughts, to feelings, to actions. It bonds you to sitting in front of Pornhub, jerking off every day, right? This is the property of sexual energy. It glues things together and it amplifies things. Um, and it also represents a certain volatility. Sexual energy is very, very volatile, as men well know. When we're very aroused, it's this intense pressure, this volatility, this explosive quality to that sexual energy. Um, Sexual energy also it represents immense creativity. It is a it's a source of creation. We all came from an orgasm. We all crawled out of our dad's nutsack. We were a sperm, a sperm and an egg, and so that's one property of sexual energy is it creates, it births. You can use it to birth another human being, of course, but you can also use it to birth anything. Any creative people, uh, artists, musicians, painters, poets are often very sexual beings. They often have a high sex drive, a high level of sexual desire, and I can't say all of them manage it well, but there's definitely that. So it's this raw desire to create, to to bring something new into the world, and you can do that by making a baby, but you can do that in a whole lot of different ways too. It's also this it's just this driving force, this immense pressure. I mean, everyone, I guess, all humans feel this, but men in this day and age, feel this intense, an intense drive to seek sex, to seek orgasm, to seek the ejaculatory release, and that's often driving a lot of their lives as well. So when you understand these qualities, you can start to work with them because here's the whole thing. Here's the magic of it all is that we can take all these properties I was talking about, the sexual energy, and having an awareness of that, we can use these to our advantage. The first thing to understand is the problem of this, why this is problematic for most people is that their sexuality is completely unconscious. Their sexual experience is completely unconscious. And we got conditioned through porn, through media, through movies to have a very, very, very limited experience of sex and a very limited definition of what sex means to us. It's usually just becomes this quick fix, instant gratification thing for us men. Just like, okay, just get it into it and get it over with. It becomes a way to release tension. It becomes just like just a very impulsive thing. And there's not much enjoyment in that in the long term. It's just like, it scratches an itch, but only momentarily. And then the drive is there and you never really reach satisfaction with that, right? So we can work with sexual energy to increase our pleasure. That's most people's desire to work this stuff, and it was a big draw for me initially into this work was I just wanted to feel more sexual pleasure. I felt like the ejaculatory orgasms I'd been experiencing were very short-lived, very fleeting, and I didn't really I felt very let down at the end. I felt tired, felt limp and flaccid and, you know, so that was a big drive for me is just how do I have more sustainable pleasure, more sustainable sexual experience, more fulfilling? Connection is another big thing here. This is something that a lot of people lack in their lives is true deep connection with others. And a lot of people try to replace this by staring at a screen all day, watching entertaining videos, just kind of numb themselves or connecting with porn, connecting with sexual images in an impulsive way. But it doesn't really replace that true human connection, does it? And that's one of the one of the really beautiful things about sexuality. The potential of it is to deeply, deeply, deeply connect with someone else or maybe yourself. That's the first connection, is to connect with yourself deeply. And this is the thing that most people are lacking. They're not connected to themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't really feel into their body. They're not able to receive or give themselves pleasure. And therefore, in their relationships, they're not really able to give and receive pleasure or deeply connect as well. So that's the first thing, is connecting with yourself. And then creation, as I just said, this is such a energy of creation. It's an energy of birth, this volatile, creating something from nothing type of energy. That's what our sexual energy really represents. So, pleasure, connection, creation, these are kind of the big things you can expect to really potentially amplify in your life with working with sexual energy. More pleasure, more connection to yourself and others, more creativity, more fulfillment in general. Better health, better energy, because most people are wasting their sexual energy for men. This is one of the biggest drains on our vitality, is excessive ejaculation. So when you learn to build up that energy, you practice semen retention, you hold this energy, work with it, cultivate it, transform it, recycle it by circulating it throughout the body, massively improves your health, your focus, your energy, your discipline, your ability to create, your ability to be ambitious. So that we kind of understand there's the basics of our sexual energy. Like, what are the the underlying aspects of it? It's more than just a desire to reproduce. It's more than just a survival instinct. I truly believe. So, on a getting more practical level here, a more practical level here, one of the most important things, the most important aspects of working with sexual energy is understanding the channel system of the body, or really understanding how to work with it. Because you don't even need to like have a deep understanding of it. You just need to know how to start working with it, right? And of course, this is something I talk about all the time as well. But it's if I repeat it over and over, it's probably very important. And for those of you who may be new to this, our body is made of all of these meridians, these channels that our life force flows through. The non-physical, this underlying energy field that underlies all creation. To form an individual body, an individual consciousness, it has this matrix of parameters, and that's what our channel system is. There's our prime channel system, the eight extraordinary meridians, which are this basic kind of energetic functions. It's our deep connection to our source energy, but it steps down through the eight extraordinary meridians. The microcosmic orbit is two of these, front and back channel. Basically, these prime uh, systems of energetic movement to create a container, to create a system. Kind of like in sacred geometry, if you're familiar with like the flower of life pattern, how it's like how consciousness moves through the void to create a system. So it's so that instead of this infinite everything and nothing at the same time, the kind of primal void, there's now individuatedness, an individual. So that's what the eight extraordinary meridians are. I know we're getting kind of overly deep with this. Basically, this energy flows through meridians and then it steps down, branches off further to the 12 acupuncture meridians, and then there's even more layers of more superficial, subtle meridians, thousands of them. And this energy flowing through them, it steps down in vibration enough to crystallize into physical form. That's what our bodies are. What appears to be dense is really, empty space. So, but this is the most important thing, is that we want to bring these channels. We want to be able to engage with how our chi, our life force energy flows through our energy meridians, because this is something that I believe we all felt when we were children. I remember having very interesting, like energetic feelings in my body as a child, just very tuned into this flow of chi, flow of energy, and through the conditioning of our education system, take kids and sit them down in a classroom for 6 hours a day, and they get super, super bored, and they start to detach from the present moment. We get stuck in our heads, trying to learn all these facts and words on pieces of paper. We get completely disconnected from our bodies. And then all the stress and trauma of being in this world, the channels start to close down. So our sexual energy is meant to be freely flowing through our bodies, and specifically, especially the microcosmic orbit pathway up the back, down the front, and the central channels as well, up the insides of the torso. And I believe this is what would be natural for us as human beings, but we weren't really born in a natural environment. We're born in this caged, domesticated environment to where we got conditioned into a very certain viewpoint of reality, a certain perception of reality, a very limited one, and we got very disconnected from our bodies and stuck up in our heads. And so we we also, along the way, learn to experience sex and orgasm in a very limited way. As men, we learn to have ejaculatory orgasms. We learn a pathway of releasing our sexual energy out the body. That's it. But naturally, for us as humans, I believe it would be natural to have this full body. Sexual energy moves up, moves in the torso, moves to the organs, moves to the brain, whole body orgasms, whole body sexual experiences. Women still naturally have this. I don't know if it's because their sexual organs are internal, well, relatively internal compared to a man's, um, where the energy is more naturally interacting with all their organs, and they're easily having full body orgasms. Whereas men, what's become instinctual for us is this ejaculatory release. So learning to basically reopen our I mean, it's not so much a reopening of the channel system. That's definitely part of it, clearing some of the blockages in there. But the process of this is bringing the mind back into the body, being able to absorb your consciousness, your awareness into your body, which starts to create this interface and this um, reaction. This is one of the basic understandings of qigong and internal cultivation, neigong, is that the interface between the mind and the body, meditation practice as well. The interface between your mind and your body creates a reaction, starts to generate energy, generates chi, creates all this chi, which starts to naturally flow, open things up. And so this is one of the biggest challenges I had on my path of learning these practices, was that I was really stuck in my head. I found it very, very difficult to feel into my body. I would read these books, be like, "Okay, I'm supposed to bring this sexual energy and orgasm up my back channel." I'm like, "But I can't really feel that," because I was very much in my head. I can feel my penis. For most men, it's like we feel our awareness, our conscious awareness. We can feel our penises, we feel our arms, but we're pretty numb to everything else. So this is what really helped me with this, of course, was having a practice, like something very embodied, like qigong. I began with yoga, and that was great, but qigong was what really, really gave me a more tangible experience, specifically of connecting with the energy body. And once you're able to move into this kind of, it is really an altered state of consciousness, which I've been talking about this recently. We were naturally in this state as children, and from a kind of superficial perspective, this is known as being in a theta state. Your brainwave. This is what your brain registers. Your brain isn't really the center of your consciousness. It's more of a processing unit. It's actually your organ system. A lot of it's your whole body is actually that is you're experiencing consciousness, but your consciousness isn't actually, directly tied to your body. So getting back to this, um, getting back into this altered state of consciousness where you're out of this, like, oh, there's a problem. I'm looking at a screen. I'm overstimulated. I'm agitated. I'm in fight or flight. This is making you stuck in a very, very narrow experience of reality, a very just survival mode, just pure animalistic survival mode. Like you're constantly running from a tiger. That's basically how their nervous systems are functioning right now. They're stuck in a fight or flight state. Like they're running from a predator just because of all the stresses of the modern world. So their systems are just completely fucked up, basically. And so being able to bring yourself back into the state of awareness, bringing the mind back into the body. This is how you start to feel again, create this, because there's like you maybe you've heard the saying, the mind guides the chi, where the mind goes, the chi goes, right? Um, So this concept that our mind can affect our internal energy. But the problem early on is that we're stuck in our heads. And so people are trying to they're trying to project from their heads, like, okay, I'm projecting, I'm imagining this energy moving through my body. And they're just doing a visualization from their head. Nothing's happening. This is how it was for me for a while. And once you truly learn how to bring your mind into the body and feel, this is really all about feeling. M w We stop feeling in our bodies because we don't feel like it's safe there because, various experiences we had, traumas, traumatic experiences, difficult experiences as a kid. We got yelled at, we got physically hurt, whatever. And so we stopped occupying the space for our body, especially our genitals. Here's the big thing here is we're disconnected from our genitals. Our mind is not occupying that space except when we feel sexually aroused, but it's more actually of a head trip of the mental stimulation of arousal. So we don't breathe into the genitals. We don't breathe into them. It gets locked up with tension, stops functioning well. Men in their 20s are experiencing erectile dysfunction and low testosterone. So absorbing the mind back into the body. This process basically this is getting back into your feeling sense. To be able to move sexual energy, to be able to have full body orgasms, you have to be able to feel your whole body. You have to have your mind absorbed into your whole body. Your mind has this liquid quality, and you can think of it as like starting to absorb into the body like a sponge. This is something you can practice with, and this is what qigong really helps you to do. Yoga as well. And so once you really have the mind within the body, then you can feel what's happening. You start to feel, oh, here's this, of course, feeling arousal. I'm used to feeling that. But now I like, okay, what if I engage my feeling sense to include the rest of my body? And I can start to expand these feelings of pleasure and desire into the rest of my body. And that's, one of the main pathways towards experiencing non ejaculatory orgasms. So this really becomes a path of changing here's a really important thing here. It becomes a path of changing how you react to arousal, how arousal affects you. Most men have a stress response to sexual stimulation throughout mostly just because of our habits, how we experience sex, how we experienced masturbation, especially affected our basically created this way of how we experience orgasm, how we experience sexual pleasure, how we react to it, and the way most men start to react to it is a stress response. They squeeze the pelvic floor to increase the sensitivity of the penis so that they get to ejaculation quicker. Their breath becomes very shallow. Um, Basically, everything becomes constricted and tense, and it's like everything's being like shoved into the penis and then out the penis, and you ejaculate. That's a stress response. And there's many aspects to why this is. And again, I think habits of masturbation, being afraid of your mom walking in on you, just the shame we have in general of our bodies. Like often, masturbation comes with it feelings of guilt and shame, which is you know rid- uh, ridiculous in my opinion. There's nothing more natural than pleasuring yourself. I believe so. There's all this weight and baggage behind our sexual experience, and especially if you've had, like, a difficult sexual experience, maybe a sexual experience blunt or, like, you felt really embarrassed, your partner shamed you, your partner made fun of you, whatever, during a sexual experience, and so now you associate that feeling, it gets locked in your body, so every time you become aroused, that comes back. Every time you're in a sexual situation, that old situation, uh, repeats itself, and so now you have this anxiety response to arousal. You're feeling aroused, so you start to tighten up the breath, breathe from up in the chest, squeeze the pelvic floor muscles, actually kind of disassociate with your body, bring your awareness up into the head. Uh, so changing this pattern is extremely important. And how do we do this? Of course, it's in this is what sexual kung fu training is all about. But again, learning to it's really simply about learning to feel again, learning to bring your mind deeply into your body. Get out of the head, get out of the realm of like thoughts and thinking and what's happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future, and simply be in the here and now. It's easy to say that, but it can be difficult in the beginning to do. And this is why we have tools. The most powerful tools for me, I teach in the sexual kung fu system, qigong practices, yoga practices, meditation, breath work, learning to I mean, the number one simple thing, people always ask me, "Where do I start?" Start breathing during sex, whether that's by yourself or with a partner. Start breathing deeply, smoothly, keep a constant I mean, that goes for any type of intense anytime you're in a stressful situation, you're you're driving in traffic and you're pissed off because you're 20 minutes late, whatever. Notice what you're feeling and then start to breathe into it. Start to, okay, I'm tightening up the breath because I'm feeling disconnected from the moment. So you breathe and just notice the sensations in your body and notice how they start to change as you start breathing deeply. So, changing how you react to arousal, the sexual kung fu way is that you learned to make arousal a whole body experience. So for me, when I start to become aroused, I start breathing deeply. I start feeling into my body, saying, "Oh, okay, what's tense? What's tightening up? What's this like almost self protection I have against feeling levels of depth within myself, which is often what these tension patterns are. Self protection against feeling intensity. And so I start to relax, start to breathe, start to let it circulate through the body. And also, when I say changing how you react to arousal, this applies to just day to day situations. Men practicing semen retention. I get the question all the time: how do I deal with sexual urges? How do I stop sexual urges because they're making me go masturbate to porn and then ejaculate and then I'm back in depletion mode. The thing is, you can't stop sexual urges. I don't know why you would want to, because first of all, it's a good sign that you're a healthy human with with sexual libido and sexual desire. That is a strong indication of health. In Chinese medicine, it's like sexual desire, libido is one of the main indicators of good health and balance. If you don't have sexual desire, if you don't have libido, something's off. Hormonally, because that's always the first thing to go is your sexual function. When you're under stress, when your body's not functioning well, sexual function gets put on the sideline. So it's not about stopping sexual urges, it's about changing how you react to them. For a man, it's important that you train yourself to be comfortable with intense sensation, especially sensations such as sexual desire. I mean, unless you're going to go live in the cave, you're going to have you're going to see sexual images, you're going to see attractive bodies, like, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's that as a man, when you've developed this pathway of not basically being so closed down that there's no space in the body for the arousal to be grounded into, to be absorbed into. Men tend to create this outward flow. Only it's a one way, just out, just dump it out of their sexual energy. So as soon as they feel arousal, it's this it's like this gravity outside of themselves trying to pull their energy out, and it's uncomfortable because you don't have the space to ground it, to digest that energy, so to speak. And this changes when you reopen your your channel system, specifically when you create a new pathway of expression for your sexual energy. This is what the microcosmic orbit is all about. You start working with it just as a standalone practice, okay, getting familiar with the orbit, running it, starting to get your mind really, in sync with the process of the microcosmic orbit and being able to guide chi through it, harmonize your chi flows. It starts to balance the chi flow of your whole body, the benefits of the orbit. Another benefit comes because this basically becomes the new pathway to which your sexual energy and your desire can flow in. So here's on a practical level what this looks like. You happen to see a sexual image, or you're walking down the street and you see an attractive human body, and your tendency in the past has been, "Oh, it triggered me. I feel horny now. I need to go jerk off into a tissue," which is a sign that your nervous system's fucked up. You can't handle arousal. That's what this means. It's not a judgment. It's not saying, you're a bad person. This is how most men are. We get programmed to be this way. The sexual kung fu way, when you train, the pattern becomes, there's that see sexual image, whatever, and you feel that sexual desire. You breathe into it. This is what I do. I breathe into it, and if it feels really intense, I start to just, move my energy through my orbit, my microcosmic orbit. Simply move your mind in that pathway, just trace it. with your mind. This is the simple version of it, and notice how it starts to change. It stops becoming so intense, and basically, if you run it until you don't feel that intensity, it doesn't feel like a downward pull on your energy. You start to feel like you've digested it. So what you've done is you've captured that energy, you've changed the form of it as it runs through the orbit, it starts to transform, it becomes something different. Going back to talking about our sexual energy being this powerful drive, you've now changed the form of it, you stored it in your system, and now you can use it for something else other than having to run to a bathroom and jerk off into it. Just hopefully no one's like that. I'm sure someone out there is when, that is that urgent. But you move it through your body, change the form of it, and you're able to change it into something different. I would put it into music. I would create music with it. I create videos, I create trainings, I create whole courses. This is what I put my sexual energy into. I create altered states of consciousness, states of spiritual elevation. Anyone can do this. Just take some training. So this is what it is. It's a path of opening up your body, changing how you react to sexual feelings, sexual stimulation, and arousal. And I know it's not easy because it's like anything. You've been doing this a certain way for maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 50 years, you know? So, there's that unconscious pattern, there's that momentum that's been driving you to do the same thing over and over and over, and, now when you do it, you don't think about, "Oh, I'm doing it this way." The energy is driving you. Well, when you decide to take the wheel, so to speak, take control of it, it's a process, and you run into resistance in the beginning. Everyone's gone through this. I know a lot of you maybe early on in the journey, you're struggling. It's like a daily struggle, like, I'm really trying to do this, but, like, there's this constant drive to go back to my old patterns, and I know it's very real. I've been through this myself, but know that every day that you decide to take action in a different way, you decide, "You know what? I'm gonna do qigong today." I follow one of Jonathan's, qigong videos on his YouTube channel. I've got plenty of them there. "I'm gonna do breath work today." "Oh, I'm feeling horny. I wanna go watch porn." What if instead of doing that, I go do 20 minutes of qigong? I do the microcosmic orbit. You start to change how you react to things. You no longer let that drive you to just, give in, cave in, I'm just gonna ejaculate, you know, throw my energy out there. You start to respond rather than react. You start to choose how you're going to play things out, basically, and it's difficult in the beginning. You'll have a lot of resistance, but don't give up, you know? It's not easy for anyone. Like, I whatever you're going through, I've been through. I guarantee it. But the thing is the choice you make in every moment. This is what defines this is what defines who you are. This is what's defining the direction your life is going, is every single choice you make in every single moment. So, what I encourage you, what I challenge you to do is to start making the best choices possible. Say, not taking the easy way out, not thinking, "Okay, I'm just gonna go on Pornhub, rub one out, and okay, I'm just gonna, smoke some weed and, uh" no, take the difficult path. I'm gonna go to the gym and do an hour workout. I'm gonna crush it. I'm going to stand in the standing qigong posture for 30 minutes or 10 minutes to start with. I'm gonna do this breathwork practice. You're starting to challenge yourself. You're starting to do something that's out of the normal for you. You're starting to push your comfort zone. This is the path of mastery, and this is what's required if you want to create a new connection to your sexual energy and to truly master it. So having said that, let me get you guys' questions here now, but something I wanna throw out here now, um, I'm to maybe you found this really interesting and you're like, "Okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to dive all the way in." Guys, I encourage you to sign up for I'm doing a free training in 2 weeks from today called Male Sexual Mastery Secrets, and in it, I'm going to dive deep into everything I've been talking about here, but it's gonna be very, very, um yeah, you're going to learn tools to open the channels of the body. You're going to learn how to redirect your sexual energy in your body. You're going to learn how to control ejaculation, how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. You're going to learn what the main factor is why men struggle with practicing steam retention, why men struggle with non-ejaculatory orgasms, and practicing steam retention. So all of that is gonna be in that training, Male Sexual Mastery Secrets. Sign up. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video and Instagram. If the link's not in my bio, it will be on there soon as well. So check that out. And those of you who were like, wanna go just all in, all in, all in, uh, I encourage you to join my Masculine Awakening retreat here in Asheville next month, May 19th through 23rd. It's going to be 5 days of diving in deep and intensive in everything I've been talking about, learning to open up the channel system, learning to move chi through your body, learning to feel your energy tangibly, learning to work with your sexual energy, change your habits. Here's the thing, you know, it's great to do these practices, and it's really amazing that we have the capabilities, like, sit at home, watch YouTube videos, and learn from, online materials. That's great, and I use a lot of these, materials myself. A lot of what I've a lot of my own training has been through, uh, media, online courses and things like that, but the biggest shifts, the biggest transformations in my life came from doing the work in person, going to a retreat, getting completely out of my daily comfort zone, my normal routines, and being surrounded by a group of like-minded people and going in deep, and that's what really made the biggest changes for me. That's what really got me hooked on, um, qigong and practicing every day. So, guys, check out that retreat next month. It's gonna be absolutely amazing. Find more information in the description of this video. That's, just over a month away. It's gonna be phenomenal. Okay, guys, I'm going to answer some questions now, so feel free to type your questions in the chat box if you haven't already. Adil Amin says, "Hey, after a session of non-ejaculatory orgasms, is it normal to pee in a dark yellow color?" Um, normal It's difficult to say because everyone's body's different. There's so many factors to what's affecting your urine. I would say it's more common for your like, any effect it has on your urine for it to be kinda, like, foamy, with amounts what this is usually is prostate fluid. Some people think it's semen, or maybe amounts of semen in it too, but that's more common to have after, like, ejaculatory experience, but if it's I'm not an expert on analyzing urine, so I'll throw that out there first. But, yeah, I can't exactly say. Further testing will be required, I suppose. Yes, Win says, "Can you make a video on your qigong exercises?" Go to my YouTube channel, go to Sexual Kung Fu, my YouTube, type in Sexual Kung Fu, qigong, Qigong. I have a whole playlist of qigong exercises. Boom. Do qigong every day for a month, and I guarantee your life will change. Okay, James Gawanter says, "What are the top 3 qigong methods to increase dantian what?" I'm guessing just like building the dantian. Well, I've learned a lot of different dantian methods, and I think it's important to preface this with the fact that, all this is ultimately what I because I've been training qigong for a long time, I've been in it for almost a decade, and especially the past few years, I've had so many breakthroughs, so many, like, my practices just get deeper and deeper and deeper, and what I understand now is that it's one thing to sit there and, like, you know, kind of imagine your way, like, "Okay, I'm projecting my mind into this area of my belly." Feel to kinda outwardly feel like you're doing the practice, but without truly having your mind anchored into the dantian, which I'll explain here in a bit what that takes, but without that, it's not gonna be nearly as effective. If you're still up in your head, using force and tension to try to force the dantian, your results will be very limited. You really have to settle into the dantian. You can't just, like, okay, put the mind I mean, when you really develop, it's like, I can just kind of how I activate my dantian now is I just kinda I bring my mind there, like, tap with the mind, but then I have to release the mind. I can't have, like putting my mind in there. kinda tap it with my mind and release, and it activates. This is ultimately what happens with your energy body. You can't really you can't force your mind into your energy, like your energy body, yang qi body. It has to be it's this degree of, like, almost like your mind, like, laying back on the couch, you relax, and it naturally pulled, absorbed into the body, and that's something you cultivate through years of training. I didn't start out with that. Having said that, I'll show I'll share with you guys a really powerful method right now to blow up your dantian, blow up your butthole at your dantian. Okay, all you're gonna do is I've shown this before, but so the first thing to understand is chi pressure. Take your hands like this, stretch the hands apart, stretching them open. This helps to open up the Laogong point. First of all, you have to build a chi field in your hands first. So, pulling yang qi into the hands, once you get, this field built up around your hands, now it can pull the chi of your whole body. This is what's happening in qigong is this ideally anyway, this field of your hands is pulling chi through the body, and once the dantian starts building, that links to the Laogong, and so there's this reaction between the dantian and the hands. You start to get this connection. You feel the chi being pulled through your body by connecting the hands, but the first thing is to get the field of the hands built up. So, build a chi field in the hands, then it can affect the rest of the body. That's, part of the qigong development. Is an important principle there. I will say that, I didn't took me a while to really understand and learn. Having said that, so take your hands, you kinda stretch them apart, open up the fingers, nice engagement, and imagine there's a stick between your hands. Like, I don't think I have anything nearby, but just, like, there's a stick between your hands, and you're kinda pushing it together, just a little bit of pressure. You'll start to feel, I mean, if you've never done qigong before, maybe you won't feel anything right away, but you'll start to feel this, like it's like a magnetic resistance, but you'll also start to feel this buzzing electrical, like, for me, it's just like there's an electrical current on now, like, I feel it all the way in my arms, feel it in my dantian. So that's just kind of a preface. I mean, that practice alone helps to build that field of qi in your hands I was talking about. So now what we do is we aim the hands at dantian. So qi high, specifically qi high point. So take your navel, your belly button, and then 2 fingers, so my fingers in my navel, 2 fingers under that, and then 1 finger right under that. That's your chi high point. This is kind of the front gate into the dantian, so to speak. So aim the palms right at that, and now feel into the center of your belly as best you can. Again, that's something you have to settle your mind into. And same thing, imagine that you're just very gently pushing a stick into there. So you wanna feel like there's something between your hands and the dantian. Just push there. And just hold your mind in the center, hold that, really, really still your mind, relax, don't try to, like, force your mind into it, just allow the mind to be absorbed in that space. I mean, sit there and do that for 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, even longer. I was doing an hour of Dantian practice a day when I started this stuff, and see what happens over time. So rather than, 3 methods, I think it's better to have, like, 1 really good one. Boom, and there's more. I teach a lot more of stuff like this in my Immortal Energy Art school, but it's good. I mean, that was a huge tool I just shared right there. Like, that was a, highly secretive training in a lot of that would have been on a lot of systems more powerful than most things you're ever gonna find, and maybe, like, 2% of you are gonna actually do it, so we'll see. Nah, not to be cynical. I'm sure you guys are all doing it. Roy says, "Hello, Jonathan. Some traditions in Buddhism, for example, say that meditation is above and beyond all other practices like energy cultivation and chakras. What are your view about it?" Well, I don't think you can really I agree in a certain sense, but the thing is I don't think you can really separate meditation from energy cultivation and chakras because or energy meridians because all of that when you're doing true meditation, all these things start to open and naturally activate almost as a side effect. So, yeah, you can't really separate them. But maybe you're talking about like really meditation proper versus like I'm doing qigong. I'm trying to like run energy through my channels. Yeah, and I'm not like a master meditator, you know what I mean? I've been practicing meditation for doing my best for, I don't know, 14 years now almost. I've been doing it every day pretty much. And I will say recently, I've been working with a practice recently. Fucking awesome practice. It's called inner dissolving. Bruce Francis teaches it, and it's something I've been working with for a long time. It took me a long time to really understand it. It's actually quite an advanced practice. It's super stupid simple, but also very advanced. So I'm doing this the other day, um, because I've been having some profound experiences with this practice recently, in the past year or so. And so I'm I'm doing my practice, working with inner dissolving. Basically, I'm just like, I went in to do a certain practice, and I ended up doing this practice because I started feeling, I've got got some things going on in my right leg, right hip. I have for a few years now. Everyone's got their tension patterns and things. So I'm feeling into my hip, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the dissolving practice, which is basically you just bring your mind into the body and, like, you start to feel energy blockages because things just kinda feel weird. It's like something like a discomfort in the body. If you have, like, a sore shoulder, there's, like, a vertebrae of your back that's always kinda, tweaked, whatever. That gives you a gateway into your energy body because it's a blockage, and so it actually is something that can really pull your mind into it. So you just feel. All you do is just absorb your mind into it, absorb into it, and then it's kinda like your mind is wrapping around an ice cube or like a column of ice, blockage often feels like, and as you hold it, it starts to melt, so it's like the ice starts to transform into water, so you feel it expand, and eventually, dissolve it, ideally. So I'm sitting here just, feeling into my hip and this, like, blockage there, and it starts to move, it starts to morph, and then because the blockages are often kinda holographic, they have certain patterns in them, they connect to other parts of your body. I start to feel all the other areas of my body that are affected. I start to feel it going up into my liver, start to feel it going up into my shoulder, start to feel it up in my head, and, like, there's this, like, circular spinning up in my head. The whole right side of my body, I'm like, "Oh, that's why this has been such a deep thing for me. This isn't just like a muscular thing. This is a this is my right core channel, the the Chong mai." Um, and right in, the Taoist cosmology, the Chinese medicine, the right side is considered the yin side. It connects to our mother line, so that our mother and our mother's ancestors. And so I'm like, "Okay," and so having that theoretical understanding, then a memory, all this stuff just starts, like, really opening up. I'm having crazy sensations, just floods of energy. I'm like, I've been sitting here for a while doing this practice, and then this memory comes back in. I'm 7 or 8 years old. There was this experience I had where I was, uh, my I'm at my parents' house, and there was a family get together, like a barbecue, and my mom's side of the family was all over. My grandparents were there, and after the at the end of this day, everyone left. I'm 7 or 8 years old, and I can only explain it as intense existential anxiety, despair, and it went on for a long time. It really I had no kinda map of working with this at that time in my life. I was 7 or 8 years old. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I couldn't explain it to anyone. I was just like, "I don't know what this is," but it was very intense at this time in my life. And so I'm like, "Holy shit, this is what is kinda being held in this this channel in my body." And then I understood that, like, wow, this just a feeling sense that because my grandparents who were there, they died, about a year, maybe a year and a half later. I just had this sense that, like, that was around the time they knew that they had cancer, and that there was, like, this kind of fear, this deep anxiety, this fear of death and all these things, and I had resonated with that pattern as a 7 or 8-year-old child because I'm just super open. So there's all this sadness, this grief, this, like, feelings of not feeling safe in the world, all that, locked in my right side of my body. And so that's pouring out. I'm, at this time I'm feeling like heavy grief. I'm crying, like tears are flowing, energy's moving like crazy. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a intense. And I let myself go all the way into it. I'm like, whatever, let's just feel it fully. Let's let it move. I'm express it however I need to. And I did. And then right after that, it's starting to rain really good outside right now. Right after that, all of a sudden, like, this energy opened up, like, in my tailbone, and all of a sudden felt this, like, strong sexual energy, this, like I'm about to have an orgasm, and, like, there's this throbbing above my tailbone in that area, just, like, this pumping feeling there, and just I started to feel really, really blissful, and at this time, it was, like, 45 minutes in, I had some other things to do, so I had to wrap it up, but it felt fairly complete. And so this whole then I came out of it just, like, super blissed out, super just like, "Oh, oh," I felt incredible. That was 2 days ago. No, 3 days ago. It was Tuesday. Today's Friday. And right after this, I might as well share this. Um, I'm because I had to I was going to the gym because I had a call. So I was like, "Okay, I'm running a little late. I gotta get to the gym." I get in my car and I'm feeling great. I'm just like, I feel like I've just lost 100 pounds, like, energetically, I'm feeling amazing. I'm feeling super blissed out. I'm I'm pumping some music in my car. I'm just like, "Woo!" I'm like laughing. I'm like, "Woo!" Just feeling incredible. Just like very much like inner child, just whoo, huge release. So I'm getting on the interstate. I'm driving a bit, aggressively. I was driving a bit fast. I was doing like 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, and I look in my rearview mirror. I'm like, "Oh shit, there's a police officer pulling right up behind me, this cop car behind me." I'm like, "Yep, I'm getting pulled over. I'm getting a speeding ticket." But I didn't give a shit. I was like, "Well, whatever, like, who cares? Who cares?" And so I just keep driving the way I'm driving. I'm going like, I'm way over the speed limit. The cop's right behind me. I'm like, "Fuck it." And I just had this attention. I'm like, "I'm not getting pulled over. I'm not getting pulled over." And, I had to change lanes, take an exit. The cop didn't follow me. It was just a very interesting experience where I was just like, just absolute confidence. I'm like, "Whatever." So all that came from just initially holding my mind into an area of my body that felt sore, really feeling into it, and this dissolving process happened. It was incredibly profound. So, yeah. So, yeah, meditation's great. But don't get too locked down in, like, dogma and ideas, and we all have to find our own path. It's like, to truly go into depths in meditation takes a long, long time. There's a lot to it. It's a lifelong process, and it doesn't mean, like, you shouldn't be doing I'm not just gonna do sitting practices every day forever, like, it's cool, but, like, I wanna do qigong, I wanna do tai chi, I wanna lift weights, I wanna have the whole full experience. So saying this is good and that's bad, I'm not really like, this is who can say? It depends what you want. There's beauty in heaven and there's beauty in earth. If you favor one over the other, you're gonna find imbalances. That is such is the wisdom of the Tao. Pranam Sharma, hello from India. Well, hello from the USA. Okay, Kashif says liver chi, kidney chi, and also the five elements with earth, water, air, fire, and metal in relation to dampness and heat. So, as well as water retention, relationship with heart, lungs, kidneys, galls, spleen, all the organs with inner smile. Okay, so I cannot give you a Chinese medicine diagnosis through through the chat right here. I'm not really a qualified Chinese medicine practitioner. I will say that just as far as like your own internal balancing, working with balancing the organs, um, understand the quality of the five elements, understand how they relate to each other, and like look at like your life, the patterns you have. Like, what can I do to support? So if I have excessive heart fire, how can I support it with more water? If I have too much water retention, how can I balance that? Um, and of course, there's practical tools like the 6 healing sounds, the inner smile that helps to balance your system. Healing sounds helps you release excess. And there's another practice which it's on one of my recent YouTube videos. It's called How to Activate an Energy Meridian. That's a phenomenal practice where you can basically do acupuncture on yourself. So that can help you balance these things as well. So sorry I wasn't really able to give a, specific diagnosis and treatment, but yeah, on your do some research, and find a practitioner. I mean, if find a Chinese medicine practitioner as well. I don't claim to be something I'm not. Sixth Sense says learning to release counting days of retaining sexual chi and reminding myself that it's a lifestyle has been a huge milestone in my journey. Putting all this energy in my self growth, career, and uplifting others, I don't chase, I attract. It's great. Yeah, though it's you don't wanna get obsessed of like, "Okay, I'm at day 323 now, oh my god. I'm at day 2." It's I mean, I did that in the beginning because I was like, "Okay, how long can I go?" But ultimately, it's like, sexual kung fu, it is a lifestyle, and it becomes about not it's not about, "Am I releasing or am I not releasing?" I mean, obviously, you don't want to ejaculate too much, but it's more about how am I working with this energy? How am I recycling it? What am I putting it into? Am I supporting it? Am I cultivating it? Am I keeping myself healthy? Do I have creative outlets for it? Am I, circulating it through my channel system so that I'm actually putting it to good use? Because you can just be sitting there retaining, like, "Yeah, I'm on day 200, but, like, I'm not doing shit with my sexual energy. I'm just playing video games and dicking around and doing nothing with my life." Like, what good is that doing So I have it's just it's all about balance, and I think that ejaculation at some point serves most men. I believe in cyclical semen retention. I think that, trying to go forever is unrealistic, just as ejaculating every day is out of balance. So it's about harmony between extremes, navigating through yin and yang. This is the basis of health and balance in our minds, our bodies, our spirits. Pure Presence says, "I just can't figure out how one woman can satisfy you. Montauk Chia has a bunch of girls, it sounds like." Well, it comes down to what you want. It comes down to personal preference. The thing is that often when it's like, I have tons of different people, it's more of like a surface level thing. It's like, people get hooked on like the surface level of attraction. Like there's an exciting new body. And so it's this very like surface level attraction. That's where you're constantly navigating through the honeymoon phase, basically. And that's great. I understand the appeal of that. I've been there for sure, but I'm more interested in like depth. Because for me, it's not just about, like, I'm just, plowing some girl and she's physically attractive, and that's great. How many can I have sex with them? What's my what's my kill count? My lay count? I'm not interested in that. It's like, I just wanna have the most in-depth like, to me, sex isn't about just the lustful urge of, like, the base level animalisticness of it. It's about heart connection. It's about a soul connection. When you experience, like, the deep tantric intertwining, um just understanding someone on that deep of a level, them understanding you on such a deep level, it takes years and years to cultivate this. You're not gonna get that in a one night stand, which is not to say there's anything wrong with one night stands. Some people need that. It's fine. I'm not saying, like, this is how it should be for everyone. It's like, um, just I prefer to go into deep depth, and I'm learning a lot about myself through it and how I've had a tendency of, like, avoiding depth, avoiding true intimacy, and one way that you may avoid depth and intimacy is by um, not going into depth with one person, but constantly chasing new people. So it's kinda like going wider versus going deep. I think a lot of us men have this, I mean, just humans in general have this, because in the deep relationship, any relationship, eventually the shadows come out, and what people often experience is like, "Oh, well, I'm just bored of my partner." It's actually that the dynamic has become stagnant. Um, there's something lacking in how you're creating passion and polarity together, and it's just like you gotta find a new rhythm, and you learn so much about yourself, you learn so much about your spiritual growth, you learn a lot through the process, so um it teaches you a lot, basically, and I will say that just in, like, my qigong practice, it's like, if I did things exactly the same every day, like, there was one qigong practice, I do it just this practice, just the same way every day, I would get bored as fuck with it, but I'm constantly y understanding these deeper layers of how to work with it and, like, how to keep the practice interesting, um, how to keep it alive. It's like anything. And I could just go do something else that's new, like, "Well, quitting qigong, I'm gonna learn woodworking today, then, oh, I'm bored with that, I'm gonna try something new." So people are often like that in their relationships, and again, it's not like this is right or this is wrong, it's just this is, what my path has been with this. Roy says, I'm 24 years old, and I remember that when I was younger, I used to be more emotional and sensitive in a good way. When I listen to music, I used to have those moments of high emotions. Now I don't. Is it a sign of blockages because of stress? Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely just like I was talking about earlier, or something I've talked about a lot anyways, is as we experience life, as we experience stresses, traumas, just get busy with things, we often put on these protections. We literally constrict our life force. Something I'm learning as I'm doing this. I was talking about my dissolving experience the other day, and this is a practice I'm working with pretty in depth this week. Like, it's been full on. I feel like I've had, like, a year of growth in the past week. Just it's been intense. And it's made me realize how we we almost need some of these blockages to just to function in the world that we live in because our world's a little fucked up. I'm not gonna lie, and we have to wear s we ha we you kinda have to not be 100% open. Like, if you had the openness, the vulnerability of a one-month-year-old, newborn right now, you would probably go insane. Like, you would not be able to handle the people you're around, the it's just an overload. You'd probably go crazy. I think that's why a lot of people do, have mental breakdowns and stuff, especially, like, people who go too far with drugs and have psychedelic trips they never come back from. They're just, like, too open for this reality. So it's like we actually need some of these things just to function in this kinda consensus reality we're in. But again, a lot of these barriers we build, they do prevent us from feeling. They prevent us from, because you had an experience in the past, maybe like where you had, you were hurt emotionally and you decided that you didn't want to be hurt again. So you put this wall around you, like that's too intense for me. And so this wall protected you from being hurt again, but it's also prevented you from feeling. It's prevented you from feeling the emotion you talk about, the openness, when you're listening to music, feeling that depth and experience. So, yeah, the process is about removing this conditioning, removing these blockages, removing these masks we've put on to protect ourselves and to, like, try to please other people. So the Taoists talk about returning to source and releasing our conditioning. This is a big part of the internal alchemy process is coming back to our true selves, undoing this conditioning we've been through in this lifetime, and it's a process, and I've gotten far into my process. It's like, damn, I was there when I was 6 years old, I was one with the Tao. Then my teenage years happened, I got real fucked up, and now I'm kinda coming back. So it's like this you start up here, then it's like, that low, low place. Often for us in our teenage years, we get really closed down with these things, and then most people just stay there, they get lower and lower, but if you kinda are able to it's a process of letting go these restrictions, these blockages, and coming back into a space of openness and a lack of, well, just pure presence, really, because we have so many, like, opinions and, like, belief systems and judgments, like, this is so much mental energy really that's bound up in the past, and it's preventing us from being here and now. Ultimately, that's what it is. There's all these programs running in our minds. We're thinking about things. We're still held on to, like, "This person did this to me," or, like, "I want to accumulate money, power, blah, blah, blah." Um, and w we're not in the here and now. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Pure Presence says, "You can transform sexual energy, but semen retention will also transform a man." It certainly will transform a man, and it can be for better or worse. That's this whole thing of, like, this is one of the potential challenges. I would say probably one of the biggest, challenges, barriers men run into in semen retention is that they build up all this energy in the lower center, the sexual center. The problem is that this causes a lot of men to be completely stuck in the lower center, completely stuck on lustful feelings, completely stuck on, like, "I just need money, I need sex, I need power, food, I need big muscles." Just completely stuck in the superficial world. I'm not saying any of these things are wrong. It's just, like, that becomes massively amplified where, like, you kind of lose track of, like, the bigger picture of, like, life and our evolution as energetic beings, and, you know, so the problem is that men get disconnected from the heart energy, the love, the connection, the integrity when they're building all this raw sexual power, and I think this is why a lot of there's a lot of these, like, tantric gurus and things who become perverts straight up, and they, like, take advantage of there's, a lot of schools and big gurus that have been, um, kind of exposed for literally, like, raping women and all kinds of things. So on the surface of, like, "Yes, I'm this holy man, and I've got complete control over my sexual energy," but meanwhile, it's just driving them to do weird shit because, it's not an easy path, for sure. So it's essential that you learn to stay balanced throughout the process and remember to see the bigger picture, what's truly important. Keeping the inner child in harmony. Sebastian, what's up, Sebastian? Elliot Smith says, "I've been going to the gym 3 days a week and doing meditation along with energy work like qigong for a few months now. Additionally, I'm about to hit my first ever 90 days of seeing intention. I read online and saw videos, including yours, discussing magnetism and heightened female attraction. It all seems like these guys trip and have people fawning over them. I honestly haven't experienced any of this, and it kind of seems like it's overplayed. What's your advice? Much love and appreciation. I'm currently working on your primordial alchemy technique." Awesome. What's up, Elliot? Yeah, so female attraction, um, uh, don't, like, go into semen retention expecting this. There's so many factors to if people are gonna find you attractive or not. I will say that overall, definitely semen retention. Basically, it's the difference between a man who's depleted and a slave to his urges and has these weird kinda holes in his aura because he's jerking off to porn, and a man who's, like, solid. He's got an overabundance of energy, his life force is overflowing. People will probably find that man more attractive. They'll feel more magnetically pulled to that person in general, right? But there's a lot of factors. It's not like you go outside and they're just gonna flock to you and things like that. I know a lot of men, like, put things I saw this video that this guy was saying that semen retention boosts your testosterone 400%, which is ridiculous. It's like, I wish that was true. I would have, like, you know, drug level, inhuman levels of testosterone, but there's a lot of there's always truth and there's bullshit, just like anything else. Um, yeah. So don't expect it. It may happen, it may not, but I guarantee, if you work on your skills of, like, relating to people, having conversations with people, work on your confidence, I guarantee that you will find success in dating, if you learn to, be confident and talk to women, engage. Pure Presence says, "What are your 4 main tips for sexual recovery, and how long are you able to get back to full energy after ejaculation?" Well, for me, after ejaculation, often it's like 30 minutes to an hour because I only ejaculate once a month, and I do sexual kung fu techniques to really draw and absorb the energy into my body so I don't lose much from it. Sometimes, like, if it's in the winter, it's like a day or 2 till I feel full energy, but it's pretty minimal now versus and that's because I finally, I think, rebuilt a lot of the gene I had spent in my teenage years and 20s. Like, when I was starting sexual kung fu, often ejaculation, I would feel like it was a week before I got back to high energy levels, and it's not really the case anymore. But as far as recovery, you wanna have your essential minerals: zinc, magnesium, boron, selenium, sleep. There's, for me, the most effective practice is basically qigong. There's certain practices I use to charge up the testicles, charge up the energy. I'm dropping a video tomorrow on YouTube, which is a phenomenal daily routine to build your sexual energy. This is something I would do after ejaculating. Deep earth pulsing, qigong is another one. Just it charges it up. Um, yeah, basically rest, take some gene building herbs, maca root, American ginseng, hisho wu, things like that. Rest, diet. nutrition, energetic exercise. Build your chi back. True Bryant says, "Hey Jonathan, I am currently retaining for 8 days and then intentionally releasing. I'm 32. Should I try for a month or more?" I would go for 2 weeks next, go for 14 days, see how that feels, you know, w yeah, and if that feels good, go for a month. Basically, my rule of thumb with semen retention is if you feel good, if everything feels good, your energy's good, your libido is good, your erections are good, keep going. Feels like 7 days for me, but I've heard gurus tout 21 days to get back to full power. Yeah, it doesn't take that long if you're like, a healthy man. I think a normal healthy man should be in full energy within a day or 2. It's just everyone's so depleted. Um, I prefer American ginseng over Chinese. It depends. Chinese ginseng it has more of a heating quality. It's a lot more yang. American ginseng is a bit more cooling. You do want to replace your yang after ejaculating. So ginseng in general is good, but, like, some ginsengs I've found to be too heating. You wanna be careful about where you source your ginseng. Most, like, cheaper products source, roots that are harvested premature, like, a year to 2 years old. If you get, like, 5 to even, like, 10, I've had 15-year-old ginseng roots that are amazing, amazing qi, amazing shen in them as well. So if it's, like, an old like, Dragon Roots has some really high quality ginseng, but most, like, especially, like, Korean ginseng you'll get at stores, it gives me, like, heart palpitations and insomnia. So, in general, American ginseng tends to be more cooling for men, and it's something you can experiment with. Jack Erickson says, "Thrusting technique?" Question mark. Oh, there's lots of thrusting techniques. Move from your glutes. You can turn your spine into a sexual energy pump by engaging the glutes without squeezing the pelvic floor. So you move from your glutes. I'm doing it right now, baby. Yeah. And that creates this pump. So you think of, like, every little glute squeeze and, like, 100% flexing the glute, way too much tension. It's subtle, just like a little bit, almost like you're pumping against your tailbone. That will create this suction pump of sexual energy up your spine as you work with it, as you get good at it, and it'll prevent the tension from going into your pelvic floor, the BC muscle. Nathan Karoka says, "Could you go deeper on everything you believe is going on behind the porn industry?" Um, I don't wanna go too deep into this right now. It's not something I really think about these days. It's just, there's a lot of dark shit. It's dark, depraved, gnarly shadow of humanity. It's one of the saving forces of the planet, holding people in darkness, basically harvesting their energy. Basically think about the Matrix, the scene where Neo wakes up and he's like, "Oh shit, we're all in these tubes, we're getting fed off by the machine." And you look at every man jerking off to porn as being in one of these tubes. He's literally feeding his sexual needs some weird shit, that everything that happens in the physical starts on a higher plane, and the porn industry it seems to be affected by these weird astral entities that are feeding off of the energy which men are freely giving away. That's the whole thing. Is it's it's a supply and demand, I guess, thing. The supply is there, so the demand's there, right? They're giving it away, so something's gonna start feeding off of it. I mean, uh, yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about it right now. Ozon Uzandi says, "You know something about human design." Um, I know something about it. I got my design thing done, my profile, whatever, a few years ago. It's interesting. That kinda stuff's never been, like, super, super, like, fascinating to me. I don't know, it's never been my thing, like astrology and kind of I find it, I like the readings I've had done are fairly accurate, but sometimes they're not too. I'm like, "Nah, nah, nah." So it's like, I don't know. I'm very much, just a free will, like, I'm gonna choose who I'm going to be, and, like, okay, maybe these are some potential variables of my personality and challenges my direction, but at the same time, like, there's free will. Paris Dogium says, "I want to start meditating. I think this is the progression that I should do. Cultivate Dantian, microscopic orbit, or the microcosmic orbit, testicle breathing, scrotal compression, and power lock. What do you think?" Yeah, I mean, that's all the Dantian breathing, told you Dantian, and you wanna continue doing that for years, and you can add microcosmic orbit on top of that, and once you get familiar with the orbit, you can use testicle breathing as well. You kinda alternate between just microcosmic orbit practice and testicle breathing practice. I wouldn't consider scrotal compression and power lock is really like meditation. I mean, none of this is really formal meditation, so to speak. It's like sitting meditative practice. And yes, scrotal compression and power lock are solid to do. Yeah, it's a good training. It's a good training sequence. Absolutely. And okay, and how much time of the day should I practice? Should I dedicate to meditation? Start with 10 minutes. Add on from there. After a week, add on another 5 minutes, 15 minutes, then add to 20 minutes, add to 30 minutes, so on. You have time and as you relatively enjoy it. Jack Erickson says, "Hey, Jonathan, what's the difference between power lock with and without the chin tuck?" Here's the difference. One of them has a chin tuck, one of them does not. That's it. This is a tantric technique in tantra, kriya yoga, tantric yoga. They use a lot of bandhas, the locking, and I have suspicions that this has become something very physicalized. Especially like Mula Bandha, like, yeah, just tighten the pelvic floor, squeeze it. Because when you really understand energy and, like, how to engage with the energy body, you understand that, like, it's not really tied to the physical, so, like, strong physical engagements, like flexing muscles, it can have some effect on the energy body, but more than anything, it can cause stagnance, actually. But anyways, that's a whole kinda tangent with that, but the physical locking, it can kind of forcibly hold the energy in places. So, basically, it's gonna lock the energy down from above. It's gonna lock it down there. That's the difference. Versus if you don't do this, some of it may rise up into the head more easily. So just something to experiment with. I do power locks now without any, like, specific physical engagements. I just do the thing and use my mind to draw the energy through my body. And Jack says, "What energy center enhances creativity? How do you suggest enjoying your creativity to the optimal level?" Well, I think that many energy centers together kinda relate to creativity. I mean, your throat is a big one of expression. The heart can be one of, like, expression and as well, and, like, kind of radiance, and the sexual center is, it's kinda like the storage or the generative force of the storage. So this is the thing is, like, rather than thinking of, like, "Okay, I'm just in one energy center, everything's happening here," understand that the whole functions as a whole. It's not like just this center's, doing all these things. It's everything's in relation, and that's why having everything kinda synced up together. This is the thing is, like, because having if I say that the sexual center is your center of creativity, which, yeah, on many levels can be, but the thing is, for example, someone who's suppressing their sexual energy, like, you can even be doing semen retention, but if you're not, allowing this energy to flow, you're not engaging with it, you're just suppressing it, it's stuck in your genitals, so it's not moving. So you could say, on one hand, yeah, that sexual center is really charged up, but it's it's not able to move, it's not going anywhere, so you need flow, so you need movement between energy centers. It's like a communication, so it's about opening everything up and being able to relate to each other better. That's why, Qigong is about opening up the channels, creating a flow between it. So if you just try to focus on, like, really, really building one thing and that's it, you may have stagnance. So it's comprehensive, building, circulating, keeping things functioning well together, resonating, if that makes sense. As far as applying creativity to the most optimal level, I mean, just have creative outlets in your life. Have something that you really enjoy doing that really exercises, it challenges you, gives you an avenue to express yourself and be creative with. For me, it's many things. Music has been a big one. Of course, sexual kung fu gives me a lot of avenue for creativity. I create content, create videos. I do these lives where I'm just sharing things off the top of my head, all kinds of things. So, yeah. Ken Stevens does stretching remove energy blockages? It can help. This is I mean, first of all, the thing with energetic blockages is it's not like there's one thing that removes every blockage every time and always works perfectly. If it was that simple, then, there'd probably just be one tool that I had that I was teaching or something like that. Um, but so blockages themselves have varying degrees of blockedness. It's like it was from something that happened a week ago. It's probably going to be a lot easier to remove than something that happened when you were 6 years old. And that's a lot of what our deepest blockages come from is our childhood. 'Cause that's when we started protecting ourselves from the intensity of life the most. So, having said that, stretching can help with some blockages. It could definitely help, like, kinda balance out the meridian system, promote more circulation. But as far as, like, really deep blockages, it often takes more in-depth work, I will say. So stretching is great, but it's not going to do everything for sure. That's why I got into, yoga asana practice. That was my first real discipline with this stuff, and I got a lot of transformation from it. I got a lot of growth from it, but eventually I started to realize it wasn't enough. I still and qigong helped me get to the next level of really being able to communicate, so to speak, with the energy body. Have a much more tangible feeling of, like, what's happening in my meridians and be able to work with it. Cookie Crumbs says, "Need tips on breathing technique to relax into standing postures." Good question. Someone's doing the practice. That's great. This is a tricky one. It can certainly be, and it's something that I still work with myself. Because sometimes I have my days where my energy's more up in my chest and, like, I feel my diaphragm feels tense. So, anything that helps you, like, loosen up your diaphragm, relax the diaphragm is gonna be helpful with this, like massage, Chine Song abdominal massage work is phenomenal for this kind of thing. What I oh, he but on a practical note here, what I recommend that you do is start in Wuxi, because for a lot of people, the moment they lift their arms up and do a standing posture, the chi rises up into the chest, the diaphragm gets tight, and they're up here. It still happens to me some days, and I've been doing this every day for 10 years just about. Um, so you wanna really focus on first just releasing, sinking. So just stand in Wuchi. Spend 10 minutes if you have to just in Wuxi. Don't do anything with your arms. Let them just be completely limp at your sides, nothing in your arms, because you wanna really build your core, your Dantian root connection, the central line. Your arms are secondary in this practice. It's all about your leg connection with the earth, Dantian, this central pillar that you build, and then later the arms just help kinda mobilize the chi to other areas of the body. But without a good ground, it's pointless. You're just gonna, like, exacerbate this rising of chi. So, stand in Wuchi and just think of emptying your shoulders into your belly, emptying your chest into your belly. Just don't don't make the breath happen to be like, "Okay, I'm inhaling, now I'm exhaling." Simply observe the breath. Observe Notice where it feels like the breath is coming from. Like, so if you just pay attention, obviously from belly, lungs, throat, nostril, one of those areas will pull your mind more towards it in the breathing process. And for me, recently, it's often been, like, when I'm more stressed, I feel like it's coming from here. It's coming from up in my chest. So I just kinda listen there. I'm just like, "Okay." I hold my mind there, and I just feel the tissues expand and contract. You just, like, feel into that area. Just listen into that area. So I just feel. Just pay attention to it. If you try to force the breathing to change, it's going to create more tension. It's gonna rise your chi up. This isn't pranayama. And so you just allow and observe the breath, and you'll notice just standing there in Wuchi, just relaxing more with each exhale, just like your body's a statue and you're just melting into the earth. You'll notice that where your mind is pulled to, like where it feels the breath is being pulled from, it will start to drop slowly but surely. Eventually, it will drop all the way into your dantian. That's when you have true abdominal breathing. So, and once you get down to the abdominal area, you can still stand there and just notice how deeply still and quiet your mind feels. Now you're in the qigong state. Some people do practice for 10 years and never get there. So now you're there. That's what qigong truly is. And then you can experiment with you wanna keep your roots, you sink into your heels, you feel this pressure in your feet, you feel like your dantian inflates, and you slowly, slowly keep the shoulders as relaxed as you can. Ah, and then see if you can maintain that. And you can do the same thing when you're in, any standing position of the Zhanzhuang system. Just pay attention to where the breath is and just feel that area. Feel the tissues expand and contract. That's all. Keeping your body alignments and everything, but especially feeling the the breathing process and just observing it, and it will start to change and sink lower, and quieting your mind, calming your mind, releasing tension throughout the process. Hope that helps. Practice with that. Okay, guys, I'm not going to be able to get to all the questions. I'm just gonna pick a few to answer right now. Sorry that I won't be able to get to all these today. Dan M says, "What's the best way to, in your opinion, to stop the mental images and scenes that porn urges that makes you wanna relapse?" So just coming back to, like, sexual urges, and this for you is, like, visuals and images. Um, practice running through the microcosmic orbit. This starts to kind of refine and digest things, and don't try to avoid them. Smile to it. Say, "Okay, feel what it does to your body, but don't but allow yourself to be comfortable with that. Allow yourself to get comfortable with that arousal and run that through orbit. Ground it. Put it into something. Put it into creative work." So this is the whole thing, is you take that energy and you transform it into something else. Instead of trying to fight it, instead of trying to stop it, you give it another pathway to move in. This is the whole thing. You redirect it, and it's difficult in the beginning, but it gets better as you build your discipline. Okay, Pal's asking, what's the best way to open one's body to energy orgasms? How to open 'em? Okay. Um, this is it's a process. It's something that you cultivate through years and years of training. Basically, this is bringing your mind deeper and deeper into the body, being able to transition from just feeling your physical body to truly feeling your energy body. And that's a very interesting process, and that can take years, take 5, 10 years. Took me about 6 years or so. And then through that, you can start to basically generate orgasms by just releasing into your sexual center, simply as that. You hold the mind there and just, like, dissolve, dissolve, and, like, this flood of sexual energy starts to rush. And Pal says, "How to open microcosmic orbit." Watch the last video I posted on microcosmic orbit. I think that'll, be a good answer for that. No, I do not do water fasting. I do intermittent fasting, and that's plenty for me. I don't do great without food for long periods of time. My blood sugar gets I get very hangry, so to speak, and I'm doing like, there's ways to detox without doing fasting. I have such, like, light, airy constitution that it's very imbalancing for me. Alright, guys, I gotta run, but thanks everyone for joining. Sorry I didn't get all the questions today. Join me next time. I won't be going live next week. Um, again, check out the Male Sexual Mastery. It's a free training. Sign up through the link in the description of this video. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna learn a lot about how to master your sexual energy, have non-ejaculatory orgasms, and last for hours in bed. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.